This is a recording of this year's Virtual Residency Fair. We'd like to take the time to thank the programs that volunteered their time to present to this year's applicants. This year's PM&R Scholars Virtual Residency Fair is supported by PM&R Recap and Ultrasound Guidance. PM&R Recap is the leading resource for your physiatry board preparation, clinical preparation, audition rotations, and beyond. PM&R Recap offers 35 hours of review videos, hundreds of review questions, and oral board cases to help you become the best physiatrist that you can be. Head to pmnrrecap.com to learn more. Ultrasound Guidance is the innovative new online ultrasound learning platform that gives you instant access to expert instruction. With rapid scans and complete scans of every joint and peripheral nerve, Ultrasound Guidance is the perfect way to jumpstart your MSK ultrasound learning. Visit ultrasoundguidance.com to learn more.
Well, hey Zach, it's good to meet you in person, I guess, or virtually. Thanks for setting this up, man. So I think we're a little bit early, I guess, but we'll get started so that we can kind of utilize this time. I'm Ryan Wolf. I'm one of the PGY4s at LSU. Myself and Lauren Cooper, who's on the call as well, are the chief residents this year. So we're really happy and excited to kind of bring this presentation, tell you a little bit about our program. We'll kind of get into all the nitty gritty with it throughout the presentation, but if y'all have any questions throughout the time, just drop it in the chat and I'll just kind of be monitoring that. And yeah, we'll get rolling. So I think Dr. Cooper is going to start off with that.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Like you said, I'm Lauren Cooper. I'm one of the fourth years, and we're excited to tell you about our program. We think it's awesome. We'll go on to the next slide.
Hold on 1 second. Let me see. let me figure this out. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. I think we're in.
All right, great. So this is just a breakdown, as we all know, the different aspects of our field. And I think our program does a great job in giving us exposure to all of these aspects, even in the very first year. And we have I think a special and unique emphasis on pain medicine that really draws a lot of people to our program. Next slide. All right, so this just outlines our application requirements, which are pretty standard, but we use the ERAS system, and we require a CV with a recent photo, 3 letters of recommendation, your dean's letter, your official transcript, board scores. We have on here data from step 1, which might not be accurate anymore. And then the COMLEX scores as well, and then a personal statement. For our upcoming cycle, we're going to have 6 open PGY1 positions, and interviews will be granted by a selection committee. Next, and then a quick overview. So we are a categorical program. There is no advanced positions. I think this is a really big plus for our program, that we get to know our interns right away. We've even got one on our call that's going to introduce herself in a little bit. So it's great to have them as part of the program right from the get-go. We're really proud of our procedure numbers. We every year exceed ACGME required minimums, which you'll see in a few slides. We really encourage scholarly activity and research. We're expected to participate in at least 1 research project throughout residency and 1 quality improvement project. And our staff really encourages us to present those at regional and national conferences or publish in peer-reviewed journals. We get 5 days of education leave every year. And another big plus is that our schedule is very adaptable to whatever your interests are. So starting out, if you find that you have a certain interest in pain or sports or EMG, your later years of residency, you can definitely tailor that to fit whatever your interests are. All except for 1 of our rotations are located in the New Orleans metro area as well. So everything pretty accessible.
All right, guys. Hi, I'm Hannah Haddad. I'm one of the PGY ones that started this year, actually like a month ago. So it's been exciting. Here we can see the procedural requirements that ACGME has set for all residencies in PM&R. And on the right, you can see that LSU far exceeds the minimum number. I know personally, I want to perform procedures in the future. And I know when I was looking at programs, like looking at their numbers was really important to me. So I didn't find any program that could really compete with LSU's procedural numbers. They're really top notch. And here's a picture. You can see our residents getting some hands-on procedural experience. And it's really cool that even in my first year, I can be one of these residents getting that hands-on experience.
I think that's Dr. Cooper right there too, during her intern year. So yeah, we get the exposure like pretty early out.
In another picture here, you can see these residents did ultrasound guided joint aspirations. You can do them inpatient, outpatient. I remember being there actually when Ryan did this one on the far right. And that was just a lot of aspirate that came out.
Yeah.
And then here we have our year one. So I think our intern year is incredibly unique. We do have a few months of the internal medicine and family medicine wards, but a lot of the rest of the year is built gaining exposure in different subspecialties that will really benefit your career in physiatry. We do have a couple months in pediatric PM&R, and that includes a sports medicine rotation, as well as an inpatient outpatient clinic for peds PM&R. We do get that 2 months of interventional pain, and that's where a lot of those procedural numbers come in your year one. We do get 2 months of rheumatology, and then some outpatient internal medicine, and these are multidisciplinary clinics or a variety of discipline of clinics that will be helpful in your future career. We do get 1 PM&R inpatient month. It's exciting. And then again, the inpatient family medicine and internal medicine. And this is a picture of my class, our new interns. And on the far right, I remember being really excited in this moment because we all had gotten our white coats. So we're cheesing hard.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Brandon Savage. I'm one of the PGY 3s. Our year one is definitely unique, like Hannah said, but years 2 through 4 is kind of where the fun begins. You get to dive into a lot of the PM&R rotations, and more importantly, you get to work with all your co-residents. So starting in year 2, that's when we, well, for the most part, that's when we dive into the majority of our inpatient adult rehab rotations. There we do 10 months total at Toro. 8 of those months include a team month. So you're working with 1 attending, and you're covering the whole team up to about 14 patients. Call is typically, so it's 24-hour call Monday through Friday, and then you will hand over your team to one of your other co-residents who is working on the weekend. Each month, we typically work just 1 weekend. That would be just you and attending, covering the whole unit, which can be up to about 48 patients. Also at Toro, we do about 2 months of inpatient consults. That counts towards the total of 10. And we also do some consults at University Medical Center. On that same rotation, we get some experience with burn rounds. Also through the 2nd to 4th year, that's when we're diving into EMGs and nerve conduction studies. There's a little bit more I'll talk about later in terms of our curriculum. The VA and the UMC is where we spend the majority of our time in our general PM&R clinic. We can do a lot of, peripheral joint aspirations, like you saw in some of those pictures, injections. We also have some unique clinics. Especially at the VA, every one Thursday, 1 to 2 Thursdays every month, you'll have an ALS clinic, a multidisciplinary clinic where we're treating patients with ALS. And then every Friday is a spinal cord clinic. We have amputees at the VA amputee clinic. That's about 1 time every week. An injection clinic is 1 afternoon every Wednesday. We also have an amputee clinic and a spasticity clinic over at UMC that we get about 1 time a month as well. Tons of interventional pain. That kind of starts in your intern year, and you can do it all throughout if you want. If you're not into pain, you can dish those months off to somebody else, and you can take on something that you're more interested in. We get plenty of sports medicine training as well, and then pediatric inpatient as well. We do 2 months inpatient and then at least 2 to 3 outpatient as well. So social events, scholarly activity. Here's a picture of a group of us with one of our staff members at one of the many parades that you can go to downtown. This one's in the French Quarter. You move on to the next one, Ryan. So here, some social activities. The top right is a picture of all of us at our most recent resident retreat. One of our residents was gracious enough to roast a pig for us, which is amazing. We have a retreat once every year. Last year we did a crawfish boil. The picture on the upper left is some of the important ladies of our PM&R residency at a Christmas party. And then below, the bottom left, is a picture of something we call brew and review. So we go to a local bar or a brewery, which there's no shortage of here in New Orleans, get a beer, and then do some board review questions. With respect to conferences, so we've had a number of our residents go to and attend different conferences. The plus to being in New Orleans is that a lot of them are held here, including AAPM&R this year. So we have Southern Pain Society there in the bottom left. I don't remember all of these, but I know the one I think was AAPM&R last year with Ryan and Dr. Anders in Baltimore. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunity. Like Dr. Cooper said, you get about 5 days of ed leave that you can use to attend these conferences. And then scholarly activity. So a picture on the top left is a new kind of academic center that we attend for our lectures. The picture you see on the right is from one of our prosthetic lectures. That's why it kind of looks like a warehouse. It's not where we typically are. But lectures are every Friday from noon to about 4. It's a protected time. So if you're at Toro, where we do our inpatient call, you can turn your pager off. The attending will be covering for you. And then kind of what I was alluding to earlier is the EMG lecture series. So there's 2 new things that basically since that have developed since I've been here. And it's the 2 latter things there, the EMG lecture series and the Ultrasound Curriculum. So just this past year, this last spring, we had a new EMG lecture series that basically involved the PGY 3s and 4s. Each presented a chapter from Preston and Shapiro that was kind of overseen by one of our faculties who's big into EMGs. So it's a resident-led lecture series, and that was a great learning experience. And then, Ryan, if you want to go to the next slide, for the ultrasound curriculum. So this is another very cool thing. So our program director, he took over a few years ago, and this is one of the things that he kind of implemented, which is great. Dr. Owens and one of our other attendings, Dr. Raj, are super big into ultrasound and very knowledgeable. So we have a new series. We have I think it's about 4 different lecture series each year where we'll cover major joints. And we'll have a lecture on kind of how to do it. And then we get hands-on experience right afterwards. So as you can see in the pictures, that's kind of what we're doing there. And that's also been an amazing lecture series. And then of course, the lectures only are 4 times a year, but then you're practicing all throughout your VA PM&R clinics and your UMC PM&R clinics as well. So plenty of hands-on experience.
My name's Evan. I'm one of the 4th years at LSU. And I'm going to talk about these additional training opportunities. So we had a really cool sim lab this year where we actually had cadaveric arms that we injected dye into, once with landmark guidance and once with ultrasound. And it was to kind of show us that you don't really know where you're going when you're doing things landmark guided. And it was really educational, and it was really cool just being able to kind of just have that hands-on experience. We've got some sim labs that we've run in the past. And then we had a really cool thing. I think this was back when I was an intern, where we had whoever makes the spine jack, one of those kyphoplasty vertebral augmentation systems, came in and talked to us. So these are just pictures of us getting some exposure. And that, I think in that brown jacket in those bottom right pictures, I think that's Andrews of the Andrews Institute, I'm pretty sure. So we get exposure with some pretty high profile physicians. Next slide. We have a ton of volunteer opportunities around the city. This is the tiniest print in the world on the left, but it just shows you how many volunteer opportunities we have. So we get to work with Dr. Carlin. He's one of our physiatrists on the North Shore. So that's our one rotation, literally one rotation that you do as an intern that you have to leave the New Orleans metro area. So everything is really within 10, 15 minutes of each other. But we work with Dr. Carlin, but he puts on this pediatric Halloween themed festival around the Halloween time, where kids go around to these different stations. We run one of the stations and we give them candy. It's just time to interact with the kids. And I think it's a hospital fundraiser. I'm not really sure, but it's fun. It's fun to hang out with the kids. One of our co-residents did like this AFO design competition. That was really interesting. One of these local schools was participating in that. There's a health fair. We obviously have Mardi Gras here, and we have a really big prosthetic population. We have a big amputee population with the VA. And one of our attendings is actually did an amputee fellowship. He did a prosthetics and orthotics fellowship. So him, along with one of our prosthetists at the VA, have a marching crew. And I think there's some people that roll in it anyways, but it's something that we can volunteer with and really be a part of the community and show our patients at the VA that even with an amputation, you can live a very full life that involves being part of a parade in Mardi Gras. And it's just a great opportunity to be a part of the community. And then, I mean, I could go through every single one of them, but there's a ton of volunteer opportunities. It would be hard to make it through residency and not do one, because a lot of the time you don't even see them as volunteer opportunities. You see them as hanging out with your friends, and usually the weather's gorgeous and you want to be a part of it. So the city really calls for you to be a part of that. So we can move on.
Yep.
So why LSU specifically? So there's a ton of PM&R programs, right? And for the most part, they offer very similar things. We got procedures, like they all kind of have their pros and their cons, right? They all have their strengths and their weaknesses. One of our strengths is that we're in the city of New Orleans, and we're a phenomenal group of people to be around. So we really like hanging out with each other outside of work, as you can see with all these photos we have. New Orleans is a city that invites you to hang out outside of work, and we are fortunate that we have the schedule that allows us to hang outside of work. So we always have a crawfish boil. We usually have a crawfish boil. Last year we didn't, but we usually have a crawfish boil. We had that pig roast instead. We're just phenomenal people to hang out with. We have Mardi Gras. For those that think that Mardi Gras is all about drinking and getting like to the point where you can't control yourself, it's really not always about that. It's a very family-friendly event. There's a lot of parades, and I mean, a lot of our residents have kids and young kids at that, and they still have a good time at Mardi Gras. So it's really a fun social event where everyone's just in a really good mood because it's Mardi Gras. There's no other reason. And then we really do, while our schedule is relatively good, we have pretty good hours. We see a lot of interesting pathology in those hours that we are working, and we see some really interesting pathology. We have one of the highest case mix indexes at our inpatient rehab. So we have a really interesting selection of pathology at our inpatient rehab. At our EMG clinic, we see some very, very interesting pathology that takes a little bit of brain power to work up. So we're social, we got time, and we see some interesting stuff. So you get some good training as well. We can go to the next one.
Yeah, I'm trying. Hold on one second. It's freezing on me. There we go.
At our inpatient rehab, we got we had a doggo that was really nice to hang out with. I think that dog was too friendly, and and it was licking everyone or something. I don't know. It graduated being a rehab dog, and we have a new puppy now, which I think the new puppy's on the left.
Yes, that's the same dog in the left, and then the middle picture too. He grew up a little bit over the past.
Oh, I don't think I haven't seen him when he grew up then.
Yeah.
But adorable dog that you can hang out with at rehab, and
Got about
and then living in New Orleans.
Yeah.
So New Orleans is a phenomenal city. I love New Orleans. I've been here now for over a decade, and I've little desire to leave. It gets a little hot. Summer's kind of getting to me, but I'd rather the heat than the cold. You're never bored. There's always something going on. There's always live music you can go to. As I've said multiple times, there's Mardi Gras. There's spring festival season. So basically March, April, May, end of March into May, there's a festival every weekend, and it's kind of, you got to like have a calendar if you want to go to all of them. French Quarter Fest, Blues and Barbecue Fest is in October. Satchel Summer Fest is in August. There's like a fried chicken festival. There's well, of course, there's Jazz Fest. That's what a lot of this is based around. There's the Bayou Boogaloo. There's Gretna Heritage Festival that's coming up in the fall. There's so many festivals, and these aren't like small festivals that have like no name musicians. These are like huge festivals. A lot of them are free and have huge name musicians. So the festivals are amazing. You can't beat the food here. And then we're very close to the Gulf Coast. So there's beaches within an hour. There's beaches very close. There's really nice beaches within 3 hours. If you go a little further north in the state, there's hunting and fishing. And there's some paddling and some kayaking and floating on some of the waterways in the area. And then we actually have really good sports teams. So of course we have the Saints, which, I mean, let me take that back. We do have sports teams. They used to be good. We have the Pelicans, which were really good at the beginning of the season for a few games. So we have sports games that are easy to attend. They're easy to get there. Because they're right in the middle of downtown, but it's a small city. There's only 250,000 people that really live in the city proper. I think there's way more than that in the larger metro area, but small city. It's kind of a big city with some small town vibes, or maybe it's more a small town with some big city vibes. You run into people at the grocery store. It's really amazing. The weather's beautiful for the vast bulk of the year. It really only got hot last month in June, and it's still very hot. But the heat's gonna dissipate. It's a beautiful city. Yeah, I can't sell it any more than I have. So if anyone has any other, are there more slides? Oh, one of our coordinators, our current coordinator, Maggie, I think she let it lapse, but she's basically a tour guide. So she used to be a tour guide in the city. And Dr. Roy, who's one of our mentors, he used to be more involved in the program, but now he's really high up at the VA. He's also a tour guide. He was in one of the earlier pictures in the slides. So we have our faculty, and all of us all are in love with the city. So it's really a phenomenal place to be. This is our brand new picture that we just took with Dr. Wolf. Ryan Wolf's wife took this amazing picture. So yeah. We're looking good in our crisp white coats that we all wore for this picture. So, so don't hesitate to ask questions. That's why we're here. We want to sell the program, and PM&R in general. I mean, PM&R is a great field, whatever program you end up going to, but we obviously love our program.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
So we got one question in the chat. How many typically go on to fellowship versus straight into practice? So from the graduating class, I think the 3 went into fellowship and 3 went to practice.
Yeah, it's usually about half and half. Sometimes it'll be a little bit more skewed towards fellowship. I will say we do have a few interesting fellowship. I think we're going to be running out of time soon, but we are the children's hospital that we work with in the city. There's a new opportunity coming up where they're working on developing a pediatric rehab fellowship. It should be available next year. So that's going to be a really exciting opportunity for us for further training if folks are interested. I see another question. Someone
asked about research. I think research can always help your application. A case report sounds great. It can always benefit you. I wouldn't say that we're the biggest research heavy program in the country. But I mean, you got to do research to do good medicine. You got to understand the research at least. So
yeah, and med students typically are involved in our research. Yes, we do accept applications from international medical grads.
Sports coverage. Ryan, do you know sports coverage?
Yeah. So we have 2 main opportunities with 2 of our rotations to do sports coverage. So Evan, I think actually Brandon mentioned earlier that we do a rotation with Dr. Carlin, who's a pediatric rehab specialist, but he's like triple boarded. He also has a sports medicine fellowship training as well, and he covers a few teams on the North Shore. One of the other rotations that we work with a few primary care sports med docs that one of them is one of the Saints docs. So those are great opportunities as well. And we can, participate in sideline coverage with them too.
All right. If anyone else, if you guys don't mind, if someone can hang around, if anyone else has questions in the chat, feel free to answer those in the chat. But just for the sake of time, we do have to move on to the next program.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have our all of our emails right here, so feel free to send those questions out in email format.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.